Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to tell you about my March of the Machine pre-release. I went on Saturday to Emerald Knights and participated in one pre-release. During the pre-release you got one of these packs here and you can tear this off and it says the multiverse is in your hands. On the back it's just a invasion tree fork coming down on a planeswalker symbol here. And if you open this up, it's the same packaging that they've had for the last few sets. You have some counters on the side here, some potential tokens here if you don't get the right things. Apparently you can get stun and flying counters in this set as well. Then some cool little wording here. Then you open it up, here's the deck box. Inside you get a spin down counter, and these come in a different type of style here. So you have black counter with purple text, which is kind of cool. There's 6 packs in here. I opened them to play the game. And you also get one of these artwork pieces, which give you a little bit of art from the story of the set. It's not really evident what's going on there. And then on the back you have building a pre-release deck. So those of you who are not very accustomed to building sealed decks, this is a really basic bit of advice on how to build a sealed deck. In the set you got these 3 particular things. You got one of these pair-up legends, and these cannot be used in the pre-release, but there are, I think, 3 different kinds that you can get. And so it's just nice that you get a bonus legend that you might actually want to use in your Commander games or something. So that's really nice that this comes in here, and that there are 3 different kinds. Kind of makes you want to play more than one pre-release, but that's that. This was my promo card. As you can see, it's nice and shiny, and it's a flip card. So on the back is Rona Tolarian Obliterator, and this you can play in the sealed deck. And then this is my Arena pre-release code, and I've already redeemed this on Arena, but you can use this to grab 6 packs, and I think you can only do one of these per account. And so this is another benefit of going to the pre-release. And then you have all your packs, as well as a card divider, which you can use in here to divide the cards that you're playing in your deck versus like the cards you're not playing in your deck, for example. And then these are all the cards that I opened. Let me just fan those out and show you what it should look like. Alright, so this is everything that I opened in my sealed pool, and as you can see, it was kind of easy to build this deck in some ways. Red was immediately out because it was just really thin on playables altogether, and so that cut out things like Rayav Master Smith and needing the Rugged Highland, for example. And so that was an easy cut, and I realized that even though I had a couple good cards in white, the color was also a little bit thin in terms of overall playables, so I didn't bother with those either. And so I was really looking at 3 colors: black, blue, and green. And when I was looking at the colors, I also took into account some of my multicolored spells here. So even though I didn't really want to play white, I had an Invasion of Phyrexia, which is an extremely powerful card, and it just needs white and blue and then X. And so whatever I would play, it would have to be blue, and that was just automatically in. Blue has some really good cards in general, like my promo card Rona is a very strong card, and then I had a handful of other decent cards in the color, and look how deep the color is. There's just a lot of stuff on there. And then the other color that I picked was also fairly easy. I did look at green for a little bit because there are some decent cards here, like Finn the Fangbearer was pretty cool. Doomscar Warrior, very powerful card. But it turned out that black was the obvious other color to pick with it because of the amount of removal that black had. I had 2 Deadly Derisions in there. I had the Final Flourish, the Invasion of Golthra. I even had a pair of failed conversions as well if I didn't have enough removal. And then when you add that to the fact that I had the other Rona, Sheoldred's Faithful here, as well as Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths, it was just a very deep card pool that was easy to play. And so what I ended up doing is black and blue, and that is the card pool. One more thing that I should note about this set is that every single pack contains a double face card, which is pretty cool. So there's a bunch of double face cards here. And then every single pack also contains a throwback card of a sort. And so you can see that because they all have this unique treatment that is specific to the set that they throw back to. And so Theros has this constellation treatment, the Dominaria has the stained glass treatment, Kaladesh has the fancy artifacty treatment that's specific to the set, and so that's really cool. And it makes each pack feel a lot more fun to open, just having both the treatments and the throwback cards mixed in with everything. And so I think that this will be a pretty fun limited format, at least just on that point. Then I also managed to open a bunch of full art lands, which are mixed in with the standard basic lands. And I don't know if the full art lands are more common in the packs or not, but this is how it worked out here. So this is the deck that I built. I have a minor transform sub-theme with the Corruption of Tawashi, working with the handful of transforming cards I have, as well as the pair of battles that I have. I was rich in removals, and I kept most of it. I also brought a Wickered Slumber in, just in case I wanted to get a little bit of sudden tempo to finish out the game. In terms of finishers, we have the Thunderhead Squadron in the air, as well as Rona Herald of Invasion. If you can flip that, that's going to be quite the finisher. And then we have a little bit of Air Force between the Thunderhead Squadron and the Flitting Gorilla and the Fairy Mastermind, which is also a source of card advantage. And finally, if I can flip it, the Invasion of Olgratha is also a mini Sengir Vampire on the other end. And then the card that I splashed for is the Invasion of New Phyrexia. In addition to what you see here, I had 7 islands, 1 plains, and 8 swamps for a total of 17 lands. The Jungle Hollow is mostly just that once in a while I can not have to pay life for the Blight Reaper Thalids transformation. I included the Invasion of New Phyrexia because splashing it I think was worth putting a single plains in the deck, because it's just so strong even on its front half, and that's not even counting flipping it over and getting to fairy. So that is that. And then the one extra fun card that I put in that I probably shouldn't have was Breach the Multiverse. That is a card that I'm hoping will get me my opponent's rad rares after I cast it. And then sometimes at the very, very late game, if this drags out as I thought it would because of all the battles basically giving each player additional life, then it can possibly also mill out my opponent and give me the win. To help with the fixing, because I only have 1 plan, I also added the Skittering Surveyor, but that will also help me get the second black mana because I have 3 different spells that require double black, and everything else is just 1 of every given color. And that's that. So now let's talk about the games that I played. At Emerald Knights, you play 3 matches, and there's a flat prize structure, and so the only really incentive to keep playing is because you get your prizes by getting to the end of the 3 rounds. And so the first match was up against a person playing a black, green, and red deck. I think the red was just a splash, and the player and I, in the very first round, mulliganed to 4 each. We both mulliganed to 4. It was just the worst hands in the world. And so we got started, and my opponent was playing Yargles. Not just one, but both Yargles. And those are kind of scary to see on the other side of the battlefield. And I think that they had some opportunities to win, but they misplayed a little bit. And I eventually was able to cast a Invasion of New Phyrexia and just went really wide, and that sort of stifled my opponent's ability to win, although they were close. Like, I think that they would have won if they had played one of their backup cards to give a creature of theirs the ability not to be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and then they probably would have been able to get in for the win. But that was the first game. In the second game, my opponent, again, was playing Yargles, and I was a bit on the defensive until I was able to stun Yargle with one of the blue cards that I had in my deck as a tempo card. That was their big Yargle, and then I was able to breach the multiverse and steal some really strong cards, not their best cards, and then get in there for the win. And so that was a 2-0 run. Moving on to the second match, my opponent was playing a black-green deck, and I think that this first game was interesting because my opponent was kind of playing the same game plan as me, in that they had some really strong cards, but they breached the multiverse and got a whole bunch of cards after we were trading blows for a little bit. And they also milled my breach the multiverse, so I wasn't able to cast that card, as well as a lot of my removal. And once they did that, and they got a 2-for-1 off of that card, then it was really not going to happen for me. And they were on the play, so there was that. In the second game, I ended up going first. I took a mulligan to 6, and in this game, we both breached the multiverse. And in breaching the multiverses, we actually just ended up with a gigantic, enormous board state. But I had drawn more cards than my opponent, and I couldn't find a way to get through because they had stolen one of my flyers, and they didn't really have any defense for flyers. So I would have won, but they stole my flyers, and I actually ended up getting milled out at the end of the game. And so my opponent won by just holding me back until I milled myself to death. My third match was supposed to be against a player, but he dropped by giving me the win, which kind of felt bad because I was hoping to play, all 3 matches. But I was fortunate enough to find another player that was also in the same boat, as in their opponent had also dropped by giving them the free win. And we played a game, and this was a white-green player playing a bunch of counters. In the first game, I kind of went off because my opponent kept a hand that didn't have a white mana, and they were stuck unable to play a number of the cards because they were white cards. And so while they were stuck on the wrong color, I was able to land an Invasion of New Phyrexia and just go for the win there. So that was that. And in the next game, I had built up a pretty big board, and my opponent blew it all up with a Sunfall after I'd gotten them down to a significant amount of life lost, and that was really painful. And then my opponent proceeded to play a Galta as well as a few other creatures, and so that was also really bad, but I managed to top deck Invasion of New Phyrexia and went really, really wide. And so their Galta didn't do a whole lot at that point because I'd gone wide before they played the Galta. They were able to attack with 2 6/6s, but since they hadn't been doing much attacking before they played their Sunfall, I had not taken that much damage. And so I had gone so wide with the Invasion that I was able to counterattack for the win because I had been doing damage before that. Now, I think if they had used the ability of Galta to create the 1/1 lifelinkers on defense, then they would have been able to actually run me over. But they didn't notice that, and I pointed that out to them afterwards, and they were like, oh, okay. I mean, this is just how it works when you play Magic the Gathering. Sometimes you just miss the obvious thing. And so that is that. And that left me with a 2-1 record. And for your efforts at Emerald Knights, you always get 2 set boosters for making it all the way through the end. And then Emerald Knights also sweetened the pot by adding a promo card from Wizards, which was one of these Retro Border Eternal Witnesses. So that's kind of fun. And that also helped make this particular experience a bit more fun than the usual pre-releases, which are just usually sealed decks. And so on top of Wizards adding an extra promo card in here, and Emerald Knights adding another promo card in here, that helped. I mean, I do wish that there was a little bit more theme to the experience of the pre-release, but throwing extra promo cards does sweeten the experience, and that made it feel like a better pre-release than pre-releases of the past. That's going to be it for me in talking about my pre-release. If you went to the March of the Machine pre-release, let me know how your experience was in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.